Yes, good afternoon, YouTube. Let's wrap up trying to answer the question, does a Raspberry Pi plus Kodi equal a Media Center extender? In earlier videos, we looked at the main Media Center extender features comparing Kodi to Windows Media Center. In this video, we'll look at some system-level considerations. First, how large a system can you have? You can have up to 5 Media Center extenders on a single Windows Media Center PC. And with Windows 8, those extenders can only be Xbox 360s. With Kodi, you can have as many systems connected to one server WMC as you want. Likely there are limits with network and server bandwidth, but mainly this would limit concurrent streams. With Kodi, those extenders can be PCs, Raspberry Pis, or eventually most of the Kodi platforms dependent on PVR WMC client support. If the PVR client becomes available on tablets or phones, you'll be able to access your Media Center on any portable device in your house. I think Kodi wins this one as far as system size and diversity goes. Another system-level aspect is power management. For example, powering on or off or entering a low power sleep mode after a period of inactivity. A PC or laptop can be set up to go to sleep or hibernate. I have this Media Center PC in my bedroom, and it powers off great at night if I fall asleep watching a video. It's an all-in-one PC. Everything shuts off: the PC, the display, the speakers, and clicking a button on the remote wakes it back up, so that's an ideal setup. Not sure on all the extenders, but Xbox 360 seems to have something akin to a sleep mode and instant on feature. But then your TV or display needs to power itself off. With Raspberry Pi, there's no sleep mode support in the hardware. The device itself uses very little power, under 2 watts. But if that Raspberry Pi is plugged into a TV that's using 30 to 50 watts, then it's an issue of how to shut that display off. Many displays will shut down if the HDMI signal gets disconnected, but if that Raspberry Pi stays running, that signal stays active. Of course, you could activate the sleep timer on your TV from its remote. That's what I used to do when I had DirecTV, as their set-top boxes had a fixed 4-hour sleep timer. There seems to be some add-on scripts that might be able to put the Raspberry Pi into a standby mode to allow the display to power down. I'll check out those alternatives to see if something can be made to work. Some of the new Nano PCs likely have low power operation and fully functional sleep modes. At this time, this feature is a toss-up. Another system-level feature is the type of input devices that can be used with the system. Most of the Media Center extenders have their own input device or remote, and that's what you have to use. With Kodi, you can pretty much use any sort of device you want, from a basic TV remote to a Media Center extender remote or Media Center remote. You could use a little all-in-one mini keyboard and mouse pad, or you could even use, this is the wireless keyboard I use on my Media Center PC, and I use that with a trackball. I find that trackball works better than a mouse. You can kind of rest your hand on the table and use it that way. Using a Raspberry Pi running Kodi with an HDMI-CEC capable TV, like my Sony here, provides a great user experience. You get one remote that can operate Kodi, and it can also operate the TV, so it's hard to beat something like that. As far as Media Center, it makes it just like a smart TV. And you can check out my HDMI CEC user interface video here. And one thing I forgot to mention in that video is that the media playback buttons on the remote also work. So if I were to play a video, I can pause, fast forward, rewind, stop. So all those buttons work. I think Kodi wins as far as input devices. You can have pretty much anything you want, depending on the Kodi platform, like a Raspberry Pi, assuming you can get a USB connector or a USB wireless or infrared dongle, you can connect up your input device. Another systems level feature is the hardware and codec support for new video formats. With the Xbox 360 and all the prior Windows 7 Media Center extenders, they are older hardware designs and are not open source. So if some new video format comes out and your extender doesn't play it back, end of story. With a PC or laptop-based Kodi client, you can take advantage of updated drivers, codecs, and hardware over time. An open source system like a Raspberry Pi should have decent support for playback on new formats. That's unless something comes along that overloads the existing hardware. And a last systems level consideration is the cost of the system and the value derived. An old PC or laptop can be set up with Kodi, and that would make a no-cost media center client, although power consumption might be a factor. A Raspberry Pi system could be set up for around $70 per TV, and it uses almost no power. I run one on solar power 24/7. If you already have an Xbox 360 for gaming, then the cost of the extender is free, but if you need to purchase one or more, that can add up. And the power consumption is fairly high for the older models, perhaps higher than a modern PC or laptop. If you're not a gamer, realize if your Windows Media Center PC is not running, you have no Media Center extender, although you can still access things like Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube. And guess what? Media Center is going away in Windows 10. So your choices are to stay on Windows 7 or 8 with Windows Media Center or move on. A Kodi system can still operate without a Windows Media Center PC, gaining access to streaming content, and there are other live TV programming options. Check out my first Kodi live TV videos using the DVBlink TV server as an example. And the nice thing with the DVBlink server is it can run on many devices, not just a Windows PC. So I think Kodi wins this comparison as well. So there you have the information to decide yourself. It's hard to give a solid yes or no answer to the main question posed in this video series. For a premium cable subscriber with big collection of DRM recordings, you'll have to stick with a Media Center extender as there's no other choice. And if you must have the Windows Media Center user interface, then a Media Center extender is your best choice as well. And if you regularly use the advanced Windows Media Center features and expect to do that from any TV in your house, then you also need a Media Center extender. For a cable TV subscriber just getting basic cable and using Media Center as a DVR, a Kodi system might be a decent replacement. Much of that programming should not be copy protected and should record and play back on any device. You might be able to eliminate some set-top boxes and make use of Media Center and cable card tuners to get cable on other TVs in your house. That would pay for the Raspberry Pis with the set-top box rental savings in a few years. Now, if you've cut the cable like I have, a Raspberry Pi plus Kodi system makes a great Media Center extender replacement. It gives you a viewing station for live TV and recorded programs. The cost is low enough to stick one on every TV in your house. It costs a fraction of an Xbox 360, uses a tiny fraction of the power, And you don't have Big Brother snooping in on your Xbox Live account. And if you have a large media library outside of TV recordings, Kodi blows away Media Center as far as media library support, especially things like TV shows and music videos. So there's my take on using a Raspberry Pi and Kodi as a Media Center set-top box. It's a decent way to go as long as you understand the limitations. If anyone has any further thoughts or questions, put that in the comment section below. Perhaps there are tips I haven't run across to make Kodi even better. I'm fairly new to Kodi myself. Check out some of my other cable cutting and Kodi videos in the playlist link here. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel for updates. And as always, thanks for watching.